Okay, I am back with our 2 days of live coverage here at the Orion Ascent conference in beautiful and sunny San Diego. And joining me is Dr. Naomi Win, who is the behavioral science lead for Orion. Naomi, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So I wasn't able to make your session earlier today, but I heard it was fantastic. And I understand you're on your soapbox about something new. And what is that?
So today we're speaking a little bit about the idea of finding signal in noise, but in kind of a changing environment. Everything's sort of shifting a little bit. I don't know if you're in the main session this morning, but Natalie spoke a little bit around agentic AI and the collaboration with Anthropic, and Anthropic over the coals right now with the Department of War over kind of, the red line around AI use, mass surveillance, things like that. These are things that we used to think of in terms of sci-fi, like Skynet or something. And at some point, I think
Skynet is a Terminator reference. I believe.
Yes, Terminator. Yeah, or even 2001: Space Odyssey. I was thinking the other day when I FaceTimed my children earlier about how 2001: Space Odyssey, that was just a fiction, and we're moving through all these changing times so rapidly. So something we talked a little bit about is how in these changing times, how do we keep pace? What do we do? Things like that. I think something that can be a little bit comforting is recognizing though everything's changing at an incredible speed, the accelerations can be quite scary in some ways. But as the landscape changes, one thing that stays the same is human nature. So we like the idea that the only constant is change, and that is true. But if we time traveled anywhere and ran into a human being, we could be fairly confident they've experienced despair, joy, hope, some kind of psychological proximity to their mortality that leaves them feeling vulnerable, and a belief system to cope, things like that. So with advisors at the moment, what I'm focusing on is that even though times are changing, accelerating paces, that human nature is still very intrinsically similar. And the job here is about helping to navigate that, help it adapt into environments that sometimes can feel hostile to our natural impulses, and to get ahead in that situation. So.
All right, that's interesting. So, part of the whole AI discussion, especially within the framework of wealth management, is, will AI take away my job as an advisor?
Right.
And I think what you're saying is no, because AI is going to help us do things, but still human nature is human nature, and is that going to help us kind of keep our jobs?
Right. I think it's a really good question. I hear this a lot. I apologize. I think what's happening is AI is going to be incredibly useful for processing huge amounts of data without any kind of decision fatigue or choice overload, the things that humans struggle with. So the analysis could be fairly accurate. How we deploy that analysis really changes a lot. Human beings get in our own way all of the time. We have best intentions, and then we're sort of defeating ourselves. We're one of those funny organisms that do that. We know what we want, we know what we need, and then we get in our own way to get it. And in some ways, I think AI can analyze all the inputs towards that, but it's going to take an advisor to look in someone's eyes and be able to see all the things that are not said, that are not overt, that are not explicit about their intentions, their capacity, their availability for making changes, and gauge that appropriately, and then use that tech as kind of the tool for everything.
Love that. And so for the advisors that are listening to this right now, that are not yet really embracing BFI, right, behavioral finance, what would you say to them?
You know what, I would question if that's actually the case. Maybe they are and they just don't know they're doing it, and they could augment it somewhat. I think any advisor who genuinely cares about their client and wants to see their client have kind of democratized access to something that can feel a little bit difficult, a little bit scary in order to make their life a little bit better, they're already using behavioral finance. Whether or not they're using it to the biggest possible capability that they can use it to that's the next question. Okay, well let's end on that part then. So let's say there's an advisor that says, I want to incorporate this more into my practice. What would you say to them? It's a good question. Well, I know Orion offers the Orion Advisor Academy, which is a free resource for CE. Advisors can log on there and look at a couple different things. Myself and Dr. Crosby have a few courses on there as an introduction. I think getting into that's helpful, and just looking at things through that human lens that way.
All right, that sounds perfect, and a great place to put a pin in it for today.
Perfect.
Naomi, thanks for joining me.
Lovely to meet you.
Okay, and that's it for this particular segment. We have one more to go later today. I'll be back in another hour. Thanks for joining us. That was fantastic.